Hi, everyone. I'm here to talk about analyzing a primary source and using the Analyzing Primary Sources handout or file here. And I want to do that with the Constitutional Order by Solon of Athens. This is linked in Development 1.3, and you can find the link there. I have it here on the right, and then I have the Analyzing Primary Sources handout here on the left, so you can see them both at the same time. First question we ask is who produced the document? This is Solon of Athens. He was a political leader in Athens, somewhat high status in society, who had lived through and took leadership after a big crisis in Athens that we'll talk about a bit more in a moment. For purpose and audience, we have the people of Athens, the citizens of Athens, most likely the men of Athens, but maybe perhaps all the people of Athens who are the audience, and then the goal of the document, the goal of the poem, is to convince the people of Athens that preserving a good and just setup of the city, which he calls a constitution, or is translated as a constitution, is the best way to do things. You've got to preserve this constitution, this setup of society, of the political institutions, in order to keep a just and stable society. It is a poem, and there may be some influence of that genre here, but mostly it's pretty straightforward. It doesn't seem to rely on a whole lot of imagery necessarily. The historical context of it is a big crisis in Athens in Solon's lifetime. You can read more about this on pages 40 to 41 in Western Civilization, your main textbook for the class. Solon took power around 594, or he drafted his laws in about 594 BC, and there had been this crisis in the 600s BC where there were a lot of people who went into debt, and some of them were sold into slavery to pay off their debts. And Solon then rescinded the debts. He canceled debts and also had Athens buy back people from Athens who were sold into slavery. And so he's trying to reset up Athens, or he does set up Athens again on what he would view as a more just setup, a more just framework of laws. And so the value of a good, stable Greek polis, you've read about the polis in Development 1.3, the value of a proper relationships between the rich and the poor and the ordinary people. All those things are part of the cultural values, but that whole family idea of the polis, the stable setup of it, is really important for this. And you can see that because Solon talks at the end about, in the last paragraph, that about putting shackles around wrongdoing, fair judgments. Everything for mankind becomes whole and wise, and so we have a much more stable city here. He talks in the beginning about the evil of corruption and greed. Okay, so those are the kind of values that definitely influence him here. He talks about later checking hubris, right? That a good constitution tempers hubris, he says in the last stanza. Okay, so this is the historical context. If you keep that in mind, what Solon's going through, then you can understand why he's writing this poem and why the poem is that way. Okay. Now, for the information questions, we think about, first of all, reading with the grain. If Solon is trying to convince his hearers to support his reforms and to go along with his idea of a good constitutional order that is not going on to enslave Athenians, right? Well, how is he going to do that? What's he trying to provide? Well, um, he's going to talk here the um, about the real danger from Athens being the injustice of the citizens. He says, hey, at the beginning, we're not going to be destroyed by the gods, right? Athena, Pallas Athena, here he says, right, is going to protect us. Okay. But what's the real problem is greed. Greed will destroy us. And then he has this discussion of greed. And then what happens is you have civil war, he talks about in the middle of it, the middle stanza that we have here. Civil war is going to destroy us. We have slavery. We have people ensnared. Everything is bad. We have this breakdown of society. Okay. And therefore, my soul commands me to teach the Athenians that a bad constitution brings civic turmoil, but a good one shows well ordering and coherence. Okay. And so um, he progresses from our real danger is us and not the gods, that this is the consequences. It lists the consequences, or some of them anyway, if there's civil strife from injustice, and then encourages them again to um, provide justice. So he explains sort of the ideal and the nightmare of what Athens can be. Now, that's pretty straightforward, I hope. It's a very straightforward poem. There's not a lot of hiding of his ambitions here or of his intentions, it doesn't seem. But the reading against the grain, what does he reveal unintentionally? Well, he's pretty clear about his hatred of injustice and his disapproval of the people who are unjust, who are greedy and corrupt. Well, at the end, though, he does give us a little bit of a glimpse of Athenian and Greek cultural values. Okay, in this last stanza, he doesn't need to say that greed is bad, that hubris, it was just this overweening pride, right? That we talked about in development 1.3. Um, Crooked judgments is bad. Greed, pride, crooked judgments, arrogance, sedition, or the treason, right? Strife is bad. And so that's really one of the main things you can see by kind of looking underneath is this: what does he assume to be good? What does he assume to be bad? What he assumes to be good is this unity of the city as a whole group where everybody's taking care of each other. That really fits with that idea of the Greek polis as ideally a family that is described by me in development 1.3. And so I think we can see a bit of the power of that um, ideal culturally here. Um, we also see the importance of the gods, um, in the sense that the referring to the Athena as the protector goddess of the city. Okay, that's not his main point, but that um, does certainly reflect the belief that that the Greeks had and the gods and Athenians had. Um, Again, he's saying that's not the main danger, but he says the reason we're not in danger from the gods is because Athena is going to protect us. Okay, that shows a bit of the um, importance of religion in at least to his hearers. Um, so those are some of the things you can see underneath. Um, Again, you might also say he has a um, tendency more towards um, the average person than towards the oligarchs. Um, and he's important in the founding of the Athenian democracy. He doesn't found it, but he's an important part of the roots of the democracy in Athens. Okay. As far as reliability, is the information reliable? Well, I think it's reliable in terms of Solon's thought. It's by him, and it gives us some idea of what he's thinking. Now, these are ideals. Okay, it might not always tell us exactly how Solon lived or how he talked and behaved, but it does give us a sense of his ideals. It seems. One potential problem with the document is that there's a fragment missing. Right here in the second stanza, or after the first stanza, we get um, a break off, and so that hurts us a little bit in terms of understanding it. But so we should acknowledge that we don't have the entire poem. That's how it is sometimes with ancient texts. Um, but that does present a challenge that we have to be modest with that. Now, what can we actually learn from the past? Well, one, we can learn something about Solon's thought, it seems. We can learn about the ideals of the city state, and specifically Athens. The some of the Spartans, or some of the Thebans, or some of the others, Thucydides talks about, that are more on the side of the oligarchs, might look at Solon in a bad light, that he was too sympathetic to the average person. But here, this is it does give us one view of what the Greek city-state should be all about, what Athens should be all about, and some other sources and perspectives. Again, we can get what about Solon's critics? Can we find anything from Solon's critics that would be helpful, or some of Solon's other some of his admirers might give us a more complex view of what Solon thought and what people thought about him. Look at other Athenian law sources. Okay, that can help quite a bit in learning about the past here. Okay, so I hope what this does is give you a little bit of, on a short source, how can you use these questions to analyze primary source. Please do ask questions if you have any. I would be glad to answer them for you. Thank you.